Of we have Duct Tape Take the Wheel from the Trackmania OST by, I guess, Ramova. Once again, everybody, this is a Basterd's LFA. I am a professionally trained musician slash composer, and my goal here is to analyze this in a way, and I explain this in a way that you don't have to be a professionally trained musician to understand what is going on in this song. This is recorded live on stream, so if you're watching this on the YouTube video, then yeah, we're gonna have a lot of pausing. It's gonna be kind of like a react, and I'm going to be picking things up and explaining them as I hear them. So if you like the sound of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you join the Discord server and all that stuff. So let's get started. Oh yeah, it only lets you one song at a time from the live queue. Let's do this. Let's check this out. Duct Tape, Take the Wheel. Let's go. I love it. Okay, we're 5 seconds in. We are 5 seconds in, and we have several elements going on already. First, we have the main motif, front and center, up above in the keyboard. A motif, of course, being the main idea, the main musical idea, the seed from which everything else will come from in the music. And that one is panned kind of up and to the right. And I like the like rock and roll slash blues vibe that this does. Kevin, you can only have one song at a time in the queue, and you already have one. So yeah, we have the motif here, and then we have this thing called panning. Panning in music is the idea of using stereo to your advantage. So if you pay attention, you will see how the bass is on the left ear while the motif is kind of up and above. The first one, Kevin. So let's say here is you and you're smiling. And usually when it comes to sound, you have the left speaker and the right speaker when it comes to stereo. And usually what happens with panning is that when it's stereo, you're going to be getting 100% of the sound from each ear. But in the mixing and post-processing, you can always say, okay, we are going to have this pan to the left ear like it's happening on the bass over here on the lower side of the synth. So the volume that you're going to be getting from the left ear for this instrument is going to be greater than the one that you're getting from the right speaker on the same thing. This works with headphones, this works with speakers. As long as it's a stereo setup, this is how it works. And it gives you this sense of things being around you and not just being there. It gives everything a sense of depth, a sense of dimension. It's really, really nice. And of course, we heard that there was something else that was about to happen, probably another layer of music. Let's see what happens. Okay, so yes, now we have another element. So first we had the main melody on top. We had the bass on the bass, because it's not that low. The bass of the keyboard on the left ear, and on the right ear we have another synth that is playing a rhythmic counterpoint to the one on the left ear. Counterpoint being when you have melodies that kind of go against each other, or that are independent from one another, that work together in tandem. And what is happening is that the right ear is doing the syncopation to the left ear. So the left ear is doing chords, and when the left ear is not doing chords, the right ear is. And it gives you this sense of bouncing back and forth that call and response is really good for, especially if you pan it out like that. Let's continue. Okay, that was a very good transition. Very, very fun. And it is a very effective way of doing things. I've always, not always, because I don't always get the opportunity, but a good way of making a climax in music, in my opinion, one of the most powerful, is by the time you reach that high, because usually in music you're doing one or two things: you're building tension or you're resolving that tension, and the space in between is your cadence. And I think one of the best ways to induce a cadence is by completely removing many of the elements. There are many people, many composers, which is the logical way of thinking, that you're building up and your climax, the cadence, is bombastic and it's strong and powerful and everything. And then there's the other method in which you take everything away and you make it very nice and soft. And what they did in this track was very simply leave the melody being the only one left. So it gives you, whenever you do that, you remove that bottom from what is happening, and now you're left kind of in the air, which allows for that resolution to completely drop with the gravity. There was a split second of silence over there that then allowed for the drums and the synths to come in to move us past the intro and into our first section, which is has a bit more movement. Let's continue. So right now we're just introducing the rhythm section, bass and drums. And as you can see, as you can hear now, we have that other melody, which is very similar to our initial motif, but now it's a little bit more developed. And now, instead of being high up in a higher register, is kind of muddled together with the rest of it, which is, very in sync with games like racing games and car games and stuff like that, because usually it involves racing, being in the middle of everyone and trying to push along and try to push ahead, all that really fun stuff, right? And the element that I just mentioned right now was motific development. This is how you turn a motif into a full-blown melody, by developing it. The most famous motif of all time in history, undisputed, no one has ever even come close, is Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Bum 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 bum, bum 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 bum. The motif is those first four notes. Bum 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 bum. The whole symphony, after that, 45 minutes, is just that. Ba 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 bum, ba 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 bum, ba 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 ba, and it just continues. It's the same exact motif, and then he just develops it in different ways. What if I do it only rhythmically over here? What if I only do the melody here, but I do it in a different rhythm? What if I elongate? What if I reduce? What if I do a lot of things? First movement, ba 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 ba. Second movement, ba 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 da da da. It's the same musical idea, and it's the best musical idea ever written. Like, I am a Mozart enjoyer. I love Mozart's music. It's my favorite music of all time. It's some of my. He's written some of the best music ever. The best motif ever written belongs to Beethoven. Because of that. Now, the best composition ever written, I would say that still belongs to J.S. Bach with the Passion, the Saint Matthew Passion. But that's a different conversation that nobody's ready for. But yeah, in terms of motivic development, that is what the composers here are doing, or the music here, the Ubisoft music is doing, with the idea of taking that melody. Now we put it in a different register, and we change a couple of notes here and there to make it a little bit more rock and rolly. And now we have what I can just describe as a groove. Groove is such a subjective term that means absolutely nothing. But we all understand exactly what it means. It's one of those things that it's the vibe. I think the modern contemporary word for groove is vibe. So it just gives you that. It's just that feeling. You can feel it. You can feel it, which is a lot of the time what you want to do in music. You want to evoke a certain feeling. You want to evoke certain memories. You want a certain reaction with your music. And over here, they are doing it with a very, very simple and straightforward groove. But oh my god, it's a lot of fun. Let's continue. It's kind of funky too. And they're doing one of my favorite things. One of my first compositions was doing exactly this. Just repeat what you just did and add more layers to it. Just do that. And just add one by one the layers. And there's that. We had the drums, we had the rhythm synth, then we had the melody synth. Now we have some extra percussion, some bongos, an extra synth up there. Let's see where they take us. And we just stop it after a couple of repeats, and we bring in another part completely. So structurally speaking, when it comes to music, we're always going to have sections for the music. And right now, I would say we had an intro. And then we went on to section A, which is what we just heard. And now we have moved to section B. A contrast, which isn't necessarily the same thing, but it might be. The bongos are really fun here. Yeah, they're really fun. Let's see where this takes. This taken. There we go. We go back to the original motif. So in that sense, if it's the original motif, we could then assert that the intro was secretly A. Just in a very raw form, which means we didn't go to A, we went to B. And now we are going to A proper. So the intro was secretly A, then we did section B, which was a contrast. Now we're back to A in full force. Or, as some academics would say, we have gone from A to B over to A prime. A prime, of course, being the sense when you have a prime in a section, it just means you have a variation. And in this case, the variation is the inclusion of the drums. Let's hear it. Never mind, now we're back to B. But now it's a little bit higher. Oh, this is really good. Oh, this is so fun. So yeah, we're going from A to B to A to B, but each time we are adding more and more variations. But we're essentially doing the repeat, going back and forth, which very in subject for a racing game. Because usually in racing, you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it's really cool to see these small changes, very, they're not even subtle, right? These are not subtle, because one time you had the melody here in the middle, then you had the melody above, now it's in the middle, but we're adding an organ, and now it's going to be high up, and we are going to add the bongo and the organ and everything. So the variations are very blatant, but they are also refreshing in their own way, because they are giving you something relatively different to hear every time. So it's not absolute repetition, but at the same time, they are keeping things familiar enough so that you don't get lost within the track. Let's continue. We repeat. So yeah, this might be section A. Oh! And we do one of my favorite things. We do one of the most stereotypical things that would happen during the 80s. We are harmonizing. Harmonizing is a colloquial term. By the way, I speak a lot in colloquial terms because what the hell is a academic term going to be of use for me or you if you're not going to be able to understand what I'm talking about? So, when it comes to harmonizing or harmonization, harmonization, the objective is to use harmony. What is harmony? Harmony, in the academic sense, is chords. It's what chords, what scales you are using in the song. And it doesn't matter what kind of tonal music you are doing, and even in many sense, even atonal music, you are going to have scales. And if you have scales, you're going to have chords. And if you have chords, you're going to have harmony. And harmony is the study of which order the chords work best in, which orders create cadences, which chords do what, which scales do what. And when it comes to scales, we have many types, but in this case, for harmonization, you use relative scales. In 99% of Western music, scales... Oh, I put this a little too low. Scales are going to have 7 notes. 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it goes back to 1, which is called the octave. And this just goes infinitely, no matter what scale, what chords you're using. And the term relative scale, because you have 2 types. When it comes to setting 2 scales one against the other, you have 2 ways of seeing it. One is called parallel scales, the other one is called relative scales. Parallel scales means that the scale starts and ends on the same note, and the difference is whatever's in between. Relative scales means that the notes are the same on both scales, but the difference is the starting point of the scales. And it, for example, in the major scale, which is like the most basic scale that we have, we know those as the Greek modes, which there are 7 of because there are 7 notes in this scale. And from that, we bring out a bunch of other scales. So what does this have to do with harmonization? So harmonization is when you take a relative scale. So we have the notes over here from this melody, right? Which is basically 1 goes down to 7, goes back to 1, then jumps to 3, back to 1, and down to 7, before looping again to 1. If you're going to take that, you can take this movement. So we have 1 to 7 to 1 to 7 to 1 to 3 to 2 to 1 to 7, and you can extrapolate those movements and just put them somewhere else in the scale. And depending on where you put that is going to be what harmony you get. The most stereotypical or most cliche way of harmonizing is using either thirds or sixths. Because thirds and sixths are in many ways what build the chords the best. Because a third up or a sixth up, which is a third down, because that's the relative way, is just what determines whether a chord is major or minor. So if you have those going back and forth together, it sounds like you are playing chords up and down. So if we extrapolate that, right? 7 to 1, 1 to 7 to 1 to 7 to 1 to 3 to 2 to 1, and we do it on 3. So now it's 3 to 2, 2 to 1, 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 5, 4, 3, and back to 2. And you just play those one on top of the other, and you get the melody that we are playing over here with a harmonized relative scale. And in this case, if we were to, I mean, the one we're playing right now, I think it's Mixolydian. Mixolydian, which is the 5th mode of the major scale. So we would be having probably the 5th and the 7th mode, which would be Mixolydian with Locrian, which is a lot more than I'm willing to explain right now. So, let's continue. But it sounds really cool. Bring it back down with some chords. With this very, very basic rhythm, but it's really fun. And the bongos are really fun. We add another layer. We complicate the drums a little bit more. Let's see where this goes. Complete change with just the harmony, just the chords. This is the first time in this show that I think we've completely come to a second motif. Let me hear this again. It might still be a variation of the first motif. Let me hear it. It's very different from the first motif. Yep, this is very different from the first motif. I know that the drums are about to drop. So this brings us to the concept of having more than one motif in your music. It is perfectly possible. It's a bit more tricky, especially if you bring motifs that are way too different from one another. This one has some elements of the original motif, but it has so many differences that it's just its own thing. Does this mean the composer is bad? No, it just means the composer ended up not developing the first motif as much and just brought a second one, which is super normal. It is extremely normal for composers to do that, to just come up with a new motif for the second part, mainly because many composers, many artists, many musicians in general don't spend as much time learning how to develop motifs. Is that a bad thing? In my opinion, yes, because that's a lot of wasted potential. But it does not diminish the quality of the music if the music is still good and fun. It just means there's a lot of wasted potential. Like that initial motif, we could have gone for other things and all that kind of stuff, and we didn't. We're probably going to jump back into it and do like a recapitulation and use that as the outro. And now we're using this whole concept of now we're in a completely separate space. Now we're in a completely separate space with a second motif, which we are 2 minutes 40 seconds into a 4-minute 21-second track. So not as much time to develop this one, which is the problem with adding a second motif. If you add a second motif halfway through a piece, or like more than halfway through a piece, you're not going to have as much time to develop it. And you risk taking away that familiarity from the piece. One of the reasons why, let's say, a genre like gent has such a limited audience is because of that. Because gent spends a lot of time bouncing back and forth between one melody, one motif to another, that it becomes very difficult to understand where a single song ends and where a single song begins. It is one of the challenges of gent, because that's kind of the whole genre, kind of the whole point with that genre, that you have idea after idea after idea, and you're mashing them together in this weird jigsaw puzzle of mathematics and music. And the challenge then becomes, yeah, but how does your audience remember? How does your audience remember? Because one of the things you want when you're making music is for your audience to remember what they are listening to. Right now, we've been playing Expedition 33, right? So, dim dim da dim dim da dim da dum. You make your motif singable. You make something that people can sing or groove to, and you have yourself a good piece of music. So, again, second motif, not a bad idea, not a bad thing by itself. It's just a challenge to overcome. Let's see where they take it. Because it's a cool melody. I like that there's the keyboard and there's a guitar on the left. And they're doubling. So yeah, they're doing a doubling. In music, and this is fairly common, a doubling. A doubling in music is when you have more than one instrument playing the exact same thing. And right now, we are using the concept of panning again, with the right ear having this really cool synth. It's such a fun rock and roll, hard rock type of synth. And on the left ear, you have the electric guitar, and they're both playing the same thing. But because of the differences in tone and timbre, when they mesh together, once your brain understands both of them, it gives them a different texture, which is the point of a doubling. A doubling is there to give you a different texture, a different sound, using multiple sounds that you already have. A clarinet is going to sound one way, a violin is going to sound another way, a keyboard, a synth is going to sound one way, a guitar is going to sound another way. Them together are going to sound in a completely different way. So, good use of doubling. It's a really, really fun thing, and it just works. Organ with almost a pedal. Oh, interesting. Two types of organs. You have one organ which is more in the like sound pipes, in more like in the pipey area, just pure air. And then you have the like church organ, like smaller, like church baseball stadium organ on the other ear, giving you more contrast. I like how this track has been playing around with the concept of panning. It's pretty fun. Build up. Back to that original theme with a pedal. High pedal note from that organ. Back to the original theme. Some extra percussions. Recapitulation, as I said. Oh, that was such a fun cadence. That was such a fun cadence. That's how you do... Again, a climax where you take away a bunch of the stuff, and when you do... This was more like a staccato thing. Staccato, I always forget the spelling. Is it... I think it's with two T's. Staccato, it's either two T's or two C's. I always forget which one. So if you correct me in the comments, yes, you're right. So a staccato just means that you're playing in short bursts, and that is something very emblematic of funk. Especially this track has been very funky, and it's a lot of fun to do that, because it gives you that sense of like hopping notes back and forth with this kind of thing, and having that as your cadence, as the way that you're pushing forward the track, really, really fun. It works like a drop, and it's really, really fun. And then you hear over there, and on the right side ear, you hear a pedal note. Pedal note. It's not quite a drone. A pedal note just means it's a note that is being held. It's just held as long as the musician is told to, or as long as the musician wants. And it gives you that sense of stability. Somewhere it gives you that sense of stability. Right now it's up above, gives you that sense of there's something overhead hanging on that is kind of just there steadily, while everything else is playing around. Pedal notes, ostinatos, and drones are kind of the same things. They do serve different functions, but they all essentially do the same thing, which is to hold together a single note, group of notes, or melody, for the sake of giving you that sense of stability. It gives you a steady platform, whether it is a foundation or a roof or something that is just there, that you can kind of fall back into. Let's see where this goes, because this is almost over. You can hear on the right side, you can hear that extra percussion. I think it's a triangle, yeah, I think it's a triangle. Keyboard back with that early motif. With the early motif. And there you go. You bring it back together with those two motifs, and you end the track. Really, really fun. And then, again, for the bridge, it goes back to what I was saying. You introduced a second motif and you used it for that section, and then we never heard again. And then we never heard from it again. Which I think it was a waste, because it was a really, really fun, like almost like keyboard solo slash motif that was just fun. It was just fun. This whole track altogether has been a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I enjoyed it thoroughly. We had so many really, really, really cool aspects to it. And if you want to see this in a certain way, overall, what we had structurally was a very, very big, very, very big overarching A, B, A. With A being everything from the intro all until the bridge, B being the bridge, and A prime being that recapitulation, bringing everything back, and then just ending the piece there. Very, very simple way of looking at the overall structure of this track, because each individual section could be comprised of like 3 or 4 smaller sections, except the B section, that was kind of like 2 sections, and then A again was kind of like 4 sections. So it was a subdivision. You get these very, very subdivided, but overall, I would say it was an ABA structure. Still really, really fun, especially if this is like for gameplay and stuff like that. It's just a really, really fun track for an arcade game. And there you go. And there you go. That was Duct Tape, Take the Wheel from the Trackmania OST by Ramova. Once again, everybody, this has been a Basterd's LFA. I'm a professionally trained musician, a composer, and I hope I have explained things in a way that you don't have to be a professionally trained musician to understand what has happened here musically. If you're watching this on the YouTube video afterwards, make sure you subscribe to the channel, that you like the video, share the video, all that good stuff. You can catch these live. Schedule is available on the Twitch channel and on the Discord. For the live streams, shows the times on your local time zone, so that you can do that. So links are down below. Thank you for watching, and if you want to request a song and you're not watching this on the live stream, make sure you leave a comment. Let me know what you want me to do next. Game soundtracks only, original soundtracks only. So there you go. But with that, there you have it. That was Duct Tape, Take the Wheel from the Trackmania OST. Really, really fun track. Really fun track. But yeah, let's move on.